to the Iroquois Central School District Board of Education meeting Wednesday, March 16th. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can I have a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing contract negotiations?
So moved.
Second. Discussion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're moving into executive session. Thanks.
Good job.
Welcome everybody to the Iroquois Central School District Board of Education meeting on March 16th, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to all who have come to observe the meeting of the Iroquois Central School Board of Education meeting. There are two periods of recognition of guests listed on the meeting agenda. The first is for comments regarding agenda items only. The second is for topics not on the agenda. Speakers may offer comments related to school operations and programs, but the board cannot hear personnel complaints against any individual associated with the school system. Please address these concerns to the appropriate administrator. If you wish to be recognized, please fill out the appropriate form and turn it into our district clerk. As per policy 1514, public participation at board meetings, public comment by district residents is limited to 15 minutes total unless the board suspends this limit. Each person is given up to 3 minutes in which to address the board. Additionally, no more than 3 people may speak on a single topic unless the board also waives this limitation. This is a meeting held in public rather than a public meeting, which means we will not be engaged in a dialogue with members of the community this evening. District personnel will follow up with you regarding your concerns. Rest assured, we are listening carefully and take seriously what you have to say. Please demonstrate respect by speaking to the issues, sharing ideas and opinions, but not engaging in personal attacks. The board appreciates your willingness to share your concerns and celebrations this evening. Please be advised that this meeting is being streamed live and the recording will be posted on your website. And with that, I'd like to call for Pledge of Allegiance, and Marilla primary students Emerson and Miles are going to lead us tonight. You're welcome. Right, the microphone. Yeah, the microphone. Right there. Oh, right there. Right there. Right there.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, now you got to stand right here in front so your mom can get a picture. Right up, right here. Stand right here so your mom can get a picture. Grab the phone.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Proud face and smile. Awesome job, guys. Good job.
Thank you so much. And that brings us to our student report. And today we have middle school students Kayla, Zach, and Ryzen, who will be giving the student report.
Good evening. Okay. I have 3 of our 7th grade students who will be talking about what's been going on in the middle school.
Hello, my name is Stephanie and I'm here to talk about this.
You guys hear me?
Is it?
Is it on? Let's try it again. Here. Hello? Hello? Yeah, I think it's good.
name is Stephanie, and I'm here to talk about the board meeting. I'm also here to talk about the Burke High School. The Burke High School is little club here in Burke Middle School. It is advised by sixth grade math teacher Mrs. Dempsey and seventh grade science teacher Mrs. Berger. The club provides students in sixth to eighth grade ways to solve engineering design challenges. The students active in the club work in cooperative groups to use the engineering design process to plan, create, test, and modify the product if needed and analyzed. Next, I will talk to you about lockers. Through well of more than half the school year, we have been testing in your lockers since COVID-19. But about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we already allowed to use our lockers against students from multiple requirements. The lockers are a good addition to the curriculum, but it also gives learning commission such as being in class. I have taught from second period to third period, French music, which is the longest possible walk in my life. That is the only issue I have with them, other than that, they're better than the alternative. The science curriculum is another thing that I'd like to talk about. In science, you do fun activities such as fraud detection and extracting DNA from strawberry. We don't do stuff like that on the hands-on involvement button in other classes. The Wisconsin Fast Plants are another example of a hands-on activity in this class. In class, we also made our own plant cuttings to show the form of production, and it's cool to be able to take plant cuttings if we want it.
Hello, my name is Bryson Zapple from Team Roosevelt in grade 7. Today I'm here to talk about Operation Shoebox, a new science program, and clubs and activities with Covet. First off, I will be talking about Operation Shoebox. Operation Shoebox is an activity where students bring toys or little activities that can fit in a shoebox that have not been used or slightly used by you and your family. Then, when we pack the items into the shoebox, we ship them all around the world to poor families or underprivileged families with kids. This is something I believe all schools and people at home should do and could do. Secondly, I will be talking about COVID-19 loosening up with clubs and activities. What we have been able to do with COVID loosening up is amazing. Whether it is opening clubs or sports, or even drawing club and plays, we've been able to accomplish so much with people not being remote or people being in person, and then for half of it. And it's helped us accomplish so much. Thirdly, I will be talking about the new science program. The one I have learned the science program this year is more hands-on in person than last year, which was more or less note-taking and watching presentations. This year, it's been more hands-on, whether it is with Wisconsin Fast Plant Lab, checking DNA, or fraud dissection. And personally, I like hands-on better, so I think this is better than last year. And from my experience, all I really had was good experience, and I don't think there is too much need to change. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, I'm Haley Heath, and I'm on Team Roosevelt. Tonight I'd like to talk to you about 3 subjects: STEM night, the cafeteria procedures, and the new science curriculum. I'm a member of the STEM leadership group and would like to talk to you about our upcoming STEM night. The STEM leadership group meets twice a month after school and has many different types of STEM activities occurring, such as working together in groups to build like chasing robots and speakers. STEM night is a great experience to inspire bright young minds. Each year, the group holds a STEM night where students and their families can come to the school and participate in various STEM activities. It has been developed by group members. Unfortunately, this year we had to go virtual. To participate in the virtual STEM night, families can select their order on our website and they will receive a STEM kit so they can follow along with the videos we recorded on our website. Some of these year's activities include bath bombs, fingerprint identification, and an egg drop. We are still hoping to make a memorable night even though it is virtual. Next year, we are still looking to allow. The second thing I would like to talk to you about is our cafeteria procedures that have changed in the past few weeks. Thankfully, since the COVID mandates have been lifted, we have been able to go back to sitting 6 at a table in the cafeteria. At the beginning of the school year, things were the same as in the cafeteria as they are now. Then, when the COVID numbers started to rise, we had to come back to 3 at a table. We had a lot of people eating in the auditorium. With the progress we have made solving COVID, we can go back to the way things were pre-COVID. All our students are grateful to be sitting back with their friends in the cafeteria. The last thing I would like to talk to you about is our new science curriculum. In my opinion, the new curriculum is outstanding. My favorite part is the hands-on activities such as growing Wisconsin transplants, which allowed us to experiment with cross-pollination, cell comic, which helped us memorize the functions of the cell, and extracting the DNA from the strawberry, which will help us understand more about the DNA in a strawberry. Right now, Zena, we are working on my class, genetics and DNA. A younger brother has also taken an interest in the projects I bring home and is hoping to do them himself when he is in 10th grade. Thank you to our 7th grade teachers, Mrs. Kirker and Mrs. Raskowski. I think that students not only this year, but in years to come, will love this curriculum as much as I do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, students. That was really wonderful to hear your enthusiastic report about what's happening in the middle school, and especially in your science curriculum. I like strawberries. I'm not going to class that. Thank you. Next up is a presentation, and Mr. Covet, I'll have you introduce your team.
Oh, my class, if I can see or not without my classes. So Kennedy Asante Somewhere, Director of Technology. And with him is Renee, Julie, Rich, and Melinda. Did I get everyone, or am I missing someone back there? All right. Thank you for, oh, that's for my mic on. Thank you for coming in.
I'm not used to talking with a microphone, so this might be a little awkward. But I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you very much for having us here tonight. We are a team of dedicated educators looking for assistance from the Board of Education. So tonight we're going to take some of your time that we're grateful to have to talk with you about Google licensing. So my name is Julie Muska. I'm a high school teacher. I teach AP Psych, Intro Psych, and US History.
I'm Renee Reedhart. I teach high school health, phys ed, and I'm also the department chair of phys ed and health.
I'm Richard Violante. I teach 10th grade global, 11th grade, and 12th grade sociology, and an elective called World History 19 and to the present. And I'm also the department chair of the social studies department.
Hi, I'm Melinda Harvey. I teach 4th grade students at Elton Primary. I am our grade level leader for 4th grade, and I'm here to represent our elementary teachers.
And I'm Ken Piacenti. I'm the director of technology for the district.
So, I usually walk around crazy in the classroom, and sorry about that.
Ma'am can handle it.
Okay. Thanks. I just wanted to give you a brief overview. We prepared a presentation for you just to accentuate some of the highlights of our presentation. We plan to obviously share with you our intention for being here, the connection to the board mission and vision that we've been working on through the strategic plan. And finally, obviously, what you're probably very concerned about is the financials involved in this. So let me take a step back and let you know a little bit of history behind what got us here. Last spring, the board adopted policy 6411, which you may be familiar with, that limits the access to personal email accounts on school devices. Completely understandable, but unfortunately what happened with that is it limited our access to our Google Drive. Many of us for years and years and years have used Google Drive to amass resources like you wouldn't believe. And so it was one of those things that was incredibly shocking to us when it got pushed out, and all of a sudden on a computer screen we got a big, it was like a circle of death, you know, that circle of death that showed up like on your kid's Xboxes or something. That was pretty much how I felt, and I know many educators in our school district felt as well. So that was pushed out last spring, adopted I should say last spring, and it's been trickling down throughout the school year. So it finally hit me. So I got it. I tested positive. So, too soon.
Sorry, you're off for 10 days.
us? Is it just, the couple people who talk in high school about, Google and whatnot? So what we did was we started to survey not only our PLC groups that we are connected with around the world, but also some of the teachers here in our school. We went old school, paper survey, we distributed to all of the teachers, and close to 75% of the respondents were caught up at the knees when we lost access to Google. So it was something that, I guess, gave us a little bit of validation in our fight for looking for licensing. It was a pretty big number. So in addition to that, Renee and I both did social media surveys, both on Twitter, and I did one on Facebook with my AP Psychology group that has close to 8,000 members. And it served for further validation about access to Google and how incredibly important it is. So that's a little bit of the history of how we got here, and we're going to share some other information that I think will provide you with the information that you need to make a decision on this. And I encourage any questions that you have to any of us as we go through our presentation.
So just going off of what Julie said, everything that we've kind of talked about up to this point has always been directed with the vision and mission in mind. Even though we're just 4 teachers up here, everything that we are intending to do with access to Google Drive is for the students, to get them better prepared for the world, an ever-changing world. And for us to be the best educators we can be, we need to get as much material as we possibly can at a moment's notice. And so we have not lost sight of the vision and mission with all of our discussions moving forward. So our intention for this is to gain Google licenses for the staff. The reason being is at one point we did have access to Google. Maybe it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when people started amassing their teacher resources. And what had happened was you need a personal email device. You need a personal email to access those things. So what then began to happen is, if I have my issue surface, and let's say it's my planning period, and I want to search my professional learning community on, let's say, Twitter, I was hitting roadblocks. We were all hitting roadblocks. So our intention, mainly because of the students, but also managing of time, would be access to a Google issued, or a school issued Google account. So we just have access to this this material that really is being shared around the world.
It's worth our time for just a second to take a look at where we are as a district. I think that is something that a lot of kudos have to be handed out to people in the last 7 to 10 years who have brought us to the point where Iroquois is considered a leader, certainly in the integration of technology. I study this regularly at the academic at the University of Buffalo, and we had a reputation. We had a reputation through Covet as a group of people who were able to maintain instruction. We were a group of people who were able to maintain communication. We were able to do that effectively because of the people who set us up with Microsoft Office 365. There is zero question on our part, as a teacher standing before you, that we are looking to change Office 365 as the main platform of Iroquois. It's a platform which allows us to communicate effectively. It's a platform which allows us to migrate our documents and our works from our minds and our keyboards to the students very, very efficiently. Not the question. The question about it is, in a world which is considered global, right? Like we talk about innovation, we talk about global connectedness. We are on an island, which is nice. It's a beautiful island. The island's wonderful. There are many islands out there, right? And we want to reach out to those other islands and see what they have to offer our island as well, right? And to bring those things in. The use of OneNote is effective. It's a great communication tool. The use of Word, effective. The use of Outlook as an organizational device for kids, outstanding. We are asking simply, as Renee and Julie have said, and Linda will say soon, and Kevin will talk about, we're asking to allow access to all of the IRAs, to be able to take what they've learned in the years of COVID, what they have learned, and allow us to integrate their thoughtful ideas and collaborate effectively. We can do that, right? But when we talk about the ability to do it efficiently, when we talk about the ability to do it utilizing our most valuable commodity for any of us, which is time, right? We are not able to do that in an efficient manner. And we're asking to take Microsoft Office 365 as our platform, continue to utilize that, and help it grow, right? And help us communicate with the other islands across the world that aren't using this, right? Not everybody does, many do. We just want to be able to communicate with others that are not.
Hey, Rich, real quick, because you said change platform and help it grow. And then on the slide before, it said Google for the staff. So are you looking to have it grow with students or with staff, or both?
We stand before you here today, and I think that we all stand in unison, all of us. This is a question of access for staff. This is a question for us to grow our garden, which in turn, as Julie said, allows us to communicate what we've learned to the students. We're asking for access for the staff. Maybe someone wants to add to that question.
And I'll say that, yeah, that's where I think parallels what Renee said a second ago about getting
I have
to
a
those.
question about that.
Oops, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Because my understanding of Google Drive is that you can collaborate on documents, you can share things. Would the students have access to a Google Drive that they could see so they could manipulate, I use this in my classroom. I can create a document and I can send it to the students and it automatically creates a copy for each of them. Or they can also collaborate on a document together. So, I mean, that seems like a really valuable resource that could be available.
We currently do have the ability to do that through Microsoft Word. We do have the ability to collaborate cross-platform.
Yep.
Within the platform, I should say.
Yep.
Within the platform.
Within the platform. Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I understand that. And when you're working in a Word document, it's awesome to be able to do that in 365, right? I mean, it's right there. And when you're working in Google Docs, it's nice to kind of keep it there and work, because there is that transition and reformatting and things get lost. And you wouldn't want to take a Word document and put it in Google Docs because you would lose a lot from that Word document. Word has some really amazing features. You know, if you want to make it a beautiful document, you go to Word, right?
Well, our intention today, as for teachers standing in front of you, what we are asking for is funding for licensing for Google for teachers. And ultimately, that will translate into us better preparing our students for the future. It's going to allow us to collaborate with people from all over the world. And what our current technology is, how it is set up, it does allow for that collaboration to happen, just as within our organization. So I personally have never used Word to collaborate with someone at West Seneca West. I have never done that. I understand it is possible, however, I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to is our capabilities with Office 365 within our district is very powerful. Within our district. We want global access. We want Google so that we can collaborate with people from all over the world. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, here, can I? So I was thinking about this before we showed up here. I said, the last time I was at a board meeting, we were presenting for project-based learning, which was something that we were fortunate enough to be able to go and get trained We connected with people all over the state, all over the country, and a lot of the documents that were shared were in Google. So therefore, this was, 2017, 18. So I had built my project-based learning, which kids love, they are interested in, they thrive in it. It's just very student-driven, and we're not gonna go into that. But I continued to do this in my classroom and refined it from searches on the internet for hashtag PBL. And then I would put that document into my Google Drive, my personal Google Drive. It's not so, it's an advantage for teachers to be able to reach out and these are the expert teachers in this world. And if I have to access the useful, effective teachers at 9 p.m. when my kids are crying, but I really want to be an effective teacher, then that click of me having to ask and then using my home iPad or using my phone and then putting it back, it's just not effective. So it's not that the kid, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but maybe it sounds like this is a great opportunity for kids. That's not why we're here. We're here because we're seeing the opportunity for us to reach the kids with the material that is, everywhere, really. Does that help?
Now, Melinda's turn. Well, you guys should talk about rural utilities. Can you give me an example of some of the other? If that's where you're going, you're going.
Yeah, I would say it takes about a minute, but let me just, I think what you were saying. So because of everything we had to go through with going online through the pandemic, I was able to, with the technology department support, learn pretty quickly on how to use OneNote. And through OneNote and Class Notebook, I'm able to push pages out to kids virtually. So if I understand what you're saying, if you can do that through the Google Classroom, we were able to do that pretty efficiently through the Microsoft Suite pieces. Just a couple weeks ago, I pushed a PowerPoint out to my kids, and very quickly they each had the slide done, and they were able to present to the class very effectively at the time of our reading program. It was great. I was kind of aghast, like, this is going to work, and otherwise the girls didn't it worked. It was great. And so I think we definitely have those for the student tools. We have that part covered. I think what we're asking for is access to Google so that we can, as teachers, be more productive and efficient in accessing the plethora of resources that exist in the social media world, the professional learning communities, that it is a, what's that expression, snack and a, no.
I know that one.
It's a pain to email to myself, looking at the school. So then as far as the thing, as your question, Mr. Jacobs, the Google Suite that we're referring to, is I think most of my access to a Google Drive option. But through that, we understand there are Google Slides, there are Google Sheets, there are Google Docs, just everything that I think we have access to throughout 365 exists in the Google Drive. But that, I think some people maybe are utilizing in order to be more efficient use of technology. But I think what we're asking for is access for teachers to have Google access so that we can be more efficient users.
In addition, Mrs. Jacobs, I'd like to use the analogy of a card catalog. And I spend some time in our school library doing research with my students and whatnot. And I just always picture, I don't think those card catalogs are over there anymore, but I always picture those drawers. Remember those wooden drawers with those little, you pull out and you get the cards and all that stuff? I liken my Google Drive to an advanced version of that. And that library is all of those files. I won't be able to find any of those books because now that card catalog is gone. So that is the primary things that I've worked on for 10 or 15 years. I don't have access anymore. I could, go out and purchase a $2,000 machine as Renee has. Sorry, you're right, but it's not in the finances right now to do that. So I do have access on my phone, but it doesn't translate very well in the classroom when I'm looking to do something on the fly because something else wasn't working with my kids, and to go and grab something out of that library, I can't anymore. So
I think to be fair, the card catalog is still there, but it's behind locked doors, you gotta walk up to the guitar, and there's a bunch of yellow crosses.
And slam your fingers in there.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
I just Sharon, just can't see your mouth.
So close, man, so close.
Go Sharon.
Can they hear me? Okay. I think just adding on to Michelle's question, I think just clarifying that, and possibly this is something that is, should this go where you'd like it to go, I think it's something to consider in the future, is the idea that once we understand you don't want to switch from Microsoft, and we had fantastic presentations, actually from some of you that are there, sharing how you use it. So we know that you're very proficient in it and that it's serving a lot of student needs. Once you have access to that global world, there are tools that are pre-created, that are created for student use. And so I would just be interested, not as your goal here tonight, but in the future, of why having that access for our students to both. And I know I've said this before, but the reason possibly I asked it is my students have access to both. So if my students have access to both, I want the kids here to have access to both, as both being tools that they are going to use in the world. If somebody shares a Jamboard with you, you can't use a Jamboard unless kids can get on into Google. And so, our kids have Google, but they don't have an email address that's active, but they can get into it. So they have so I think maybe looking in the future, if this committee or another committee continues, that seems like that might evolve from this. So I don't know, I don't speak for you, Michelle, but that was what I was wondering as you were explaining too.
I was thinking that, but you're way more patient than I am. So thank you for. It's your turn.
Well, let's have another question, so Ken can. Okay, so our current filter is basically designed to give as much access as possible to the entire Google Suite without needing the ability to sign into that account. So what this means, the teachers do have access to programs like Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Slides, and other Google-based resources as well. They can open, if someone sends a faculty member a Google document, as long as it's not required to sign in, they can edit it, download it, and even collaborate in real time with another educator. They can access shared Google Drives, as long as it's not required for a personal login. What our filter does block is teachers' ability to log in to personal Google accounts in accordance with Board Policy 641.
But I just want to ask a question. No one is asking for a personal Google account to be accessed on a district, right? Nobody wants that. Correct. Okay.
Correct. So when we think about requiring sign-in versus not requiring sign-in, an example I like to use is websites. Our website, or really any district's website. When teachers are posting to their websites, they post without requiring sign-in because we really can't assume that parents or community members have access to any given platform. So in that perfect world, accessibility is open to all. Unfortunately, as our teachers have delved into exploring the web for educational resources, they have run into some roadblocks and have realized that accessibility is not available to them. So I'm going to kind of turn it back over to them. I think they've already talked about some of the roadblocks they have, but if you want to give some specifics.
I think this will address Mrs. Jacobs' question earlier.
Right, so this was not, we were given emails from Ken about transferring our files, which I everyone here did that. Some people took longer than others. I know Julie took days upon days to download her Google Drive and then upload it into our OneDrive for Microsoft. I did the same. Mine took not days, but hours. And what it did is it took it out of Google Drive. I uploaded it back into OneDrive, and all of the files are zipped. And they are not labeled the way that they were labeled in the Google Drive, and they are numbers with dashes and letters, numbers with dashes and letters. And I can scroll, and all I see are little zip files of all of my materials that were Google Drive. So yes, we do have access to that, but I look at that and I am overwhelmed by unzipping all of these, clicking into everyone, finding a new home for it. And when that happens in our own Google or in our own OneDrive, it's not living, so to speak. So that is also a roadblock. So we have done everything that technology, the district, the board has asked to make ourselves accommodate the 6411 and still maintain access to our Google documents, drive, slides, whatever. But it's not efficient.
It doesn't sound productive either.
No.
It's actually incredibly counterproductive. An experience that I've had, as well as fellow social studies teachers, we spent a lot of money training in New Visions. The district sent me to New York City for several nights, so it paid for my hotel, it paid for my flight, and I went to a New Visions training with the guru of U.S. history and government, and at that time, everything was accessible, but we have spent more money on trainings, and everything that is done through New Visions is done via Google Docs. So the live training that we had, the trainer through Skype or Zoom, I'm not sure exactly what that was, to be honest with you, but she sent us stuff and it was inaccessible to many of our faculty members. So in my opinion, that was an incredible waste of money because that had to be translated into our language in real time when we had this expert with us online. So that was one roadblock that was incredibly frustrating. So we are hoping to alleviate that.
Another practical example I wanted to share with you is I'm a utilizer of what's called Google Earth in the social studies classroom. Geography is obviously a major push in instruction of social studies. Google Earth was a real go-to. And Google Earth with Google Drive sign-in allows you to build trips, right? I can establish a presentation for the students where particularly what I'm thinking of is a World War I trip. We go to different battlefields, we go to the trenches, we go to Versailles, we go to different places on Google Earth, and what I can do is I can then pull it up from my Google Drive. Students are there, I can share it out utilizing our current platforms, not an issue. I can create a hyperlink, send it out via Teams, send it out how I'd like. But creation of that Google Earth lesson is created and saved in my Google Drive. Right? I can still do that. Ken has been gracious, everyone's been gracious, showing us workarounds. I need to move to my Maps, Google Maps instead of Google Earth, because Google Earth forces a sign and Google Maps does not. And when I did that, it works. However, every class, I have to build the trip over and over because I can't just access what's saved in the drive. All right? And again, our most valuable commodity is time. This is time that we're taking away from instruction. It's time that I'm doing it live in class. Instead of just clicking in my drive, pulling up the presentation, ding, 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 share it out with students, I have to do it live. It's a question of time. It's a question of efficiency.
I sort of alluded to this before with like social media, professional learning communities. But in 2017, I attended a summer professional development and developed my first Twitter, and kind of brought us up to speed that had been offered for 4 years. And I can't speak for everyone, but I know that once I got onto the social media platform in a professional way, I felt inspired and empowered to be a better teacher because especially being a health teacher and speaking of islands, I'm the only one in the high school. I kind of am bouncing ideas off of myself or other people who maybe don't really get it. But when you meet people, teachers that are as passionate as you, it's inspiring. It makes you want to do better for everyone. And so I know both of you, Melinda, we have social media accounts. I know that many teachers in the district do, and not personal ones, but ones that we primarily are using for professional development. So, you know, when I think Julie did her survey of how many people are using Google versus Microsoft, it was like 200 plus people. So when we're talking about the social media sharing of documents, the vast majority are in Google and or a doc form. So again, it's just kind of goes back to what we've been saying over and over again.
As Julie mentioned earlier, we surveyed our Iroquois staff to find out what they use their access to Google for. And my eyes are wide open here. I kind of operate just from my little fourth grade island. But to learn that our music teachers, when they are doing one of their ECMBA work and sharing things with all county and all that, a lot of that is done through Google. And it really hindered them when they lost access. I'm understanding the Unified Sports Program. There's some management that happens through there that's done through the Google Suite options. Our pre-service teachers, a lot of us are very proud to work with pre-service teachers as a student teacher. A lot of them come to us and they hit roadblocks because everything they've been doing through college is on Google Drive, and then they hit some snares when they come to us to try to do their things with the students in their pre-service experience. And I know Mary Jo taught me that you can have access to it, and we can again, you know, he's opened these up for us so we can have access. The problem is, I don't think the whole world is as proficient as Mary Jo is in how to share those things. So when something gets shared with me through a social media platform or through a pre-service teacher, if those settings have not been set properly, that's when we get the access denied. And after a few sentences are buried, it is not productive at all. It's just, why are we even trying to do this? Just run into this thing. I'd rather be a focus plan B. So those are just some experiences that I learned and my colleagues are experiencing when we did that survey.
One more, real quick, it's just, give a teacher the stage.
I want to see
No, I want to wrap this up. No, wrap up the examples. There's an author, a contemporary author, he deals with integration of technologies, like things like you. He wrote a book, it's called The Path of the Butterfly, or The Line of the Bullet, right? And it talks about integration of technology into schools in 2022, and it's a very contemporary book, and it talks about every district struggles with these things. Every district has 6411s on their books. Every district has NLTVs they have to contend with, right? Larry Cuban says it's the job of all of us to work together to take that path of the butterfly, right? That's all over the place, and we have to make it into the line of the bullet. We have to make it straighter because we have to become more efficient, right? About 7 years ago, Dr. Dudek introduced us to the world of MOOCs, Massive Open Online Community Courses. It was one of the most incredible turning points in my career for us. Many of us here, we used to sit on Sunday nights on YouTube and our living rooms on our old iPads, and we're taking a course with people from around Canada and North America and even the world. Right? And through Twitter, through Google Docs, through the ability to share items in our drives, we were able to establish a community, a professional community around the world. We're just simply asking that we can continue to have access to that in our schools without having to take this path of the butterfly, which really takes us off our mission, which is instruction of students.
Okay, so back when this started, not this presentation, but when we started talking about Google, I started working with Boces. If we're going to go this route, we go down this path, I had discussions with Boces on what that would look like. It's a large process. You got to get servers, you got to build servers, you got to make sure everything's set up in the background. That background part is big part of this. You know, so we started going down that path, talking about purchasing options. And they were gracious enough to give us two options. The first option is a reduced startup fee with $3,500 with a yearly fee of $11,320. That yearly fee comes with unlimited support throughout the year from Boces. Second option is a little bit more involved. It has the normal setup fee that they charge all districts of $5,425. But then they broke up that yearly fee into technical support blocks. So they broke it up 5-hour blocks, 10-hour blocks, and 15-hour blocks of time. Where you can just purchase time. You need 30 hours, you purchase 2 hours. If we were going to go down this path, then the recommendation from the technology department would, for the first year, at least would be to go with option 1. That would give us that reduced setup cost and give us the yearly fee of $11,320 with that unlimited support during that first year of implementation. Then, throughout that first year, Matt and I would document every time we contact Boces all the hours that we work with them, and if it makes sense to move to the block of times the following year to save the district some money, we would do that.
Is that unlimited licenses?
Yes. When you're purchasing Google, you're not just purchasing for 5 teachers, or you're purchasing the whole platform. They don't offer delineation between specific entities.
Okay, and that's 54% aidable?
Yes. Yeah, and I think we purchased Google is
Right, and so that 11,000 and the 3,500.
Yeah, Jack's correct me if I'm wrong, but we have to pay all that up front. They get reimbursed the following.
And then we go reimbursed.
The following.
Is that the unreimbursed cost or the reimbursed cost?
The unreimbursed.
Okay, so that's okay. Option 2, one-time setup fee of $54.20.
Yes.
And then you have yearly fees. So year 2, it would, if we chose to buy 5 hours of technical support, that it would cost us $535.
Correct.
For the year.
Yes.
There's.
No, setup fee is a one-time thing. Because
Right.
we work with
No,
Boces.
I understand that, but there's no other fixed fee associated.
Nope, it's just that technical spot. And you see the option to anticipate the cost if we did go with those yearly fees. You know, shot in the dark, we're thinking between $42.90 and $71.50. Judging by how many hours we use Boces for Microsoft, and how many hours, we would use for.
Yes.
Any other questions?
So if theoretically this happens and there isn't a limit on licenses, so this could be at some point in the future if everything is EdLaw 2D compliant and not at an expense and very controlled and responsible, access could be given to students without additional cost.
Without additional cost, yes, the control and responsible piece is where, comes into play the district have to look at.
I understand.
Any other questions? But I think, just to reiterate what they had said earlier, moving away from that Microsoft platform is something that I don't think you're interested in.
No one is saying that. No one is saying they're moving away from Microsoft. We have Microsoft, we're a Microsoft school.
Right.
They all love it. So nobody wants to get rid of it. And Outlook is really important as far as communication goes, as is Teams and,
Right.
I love that.
Okay, so other possible costs associated with purchase, when purchasing a program like Google, there's some other additional costs that can be considered as well. Professional development, when we push out something, we want to make sure our teachers are supported with navigating this new platform and accessing it as well. Putting an actual dollar amount on that professional development is going to be difficult ahead of time, but just to give some background, since 2017 through just the summer portion of professional development, we have spent roughly $16,000 on the main Office 365 components, which would translate to like. We also
Can I
take.
ask a question on that? Do we have access to teacher center resources? Because I just completed a 9-hour professional development through the teacher center at Boces, and it was free. So, I mean, as a matter of fact, like, as Mr. Giuliani was talking about Google Earth and maps and the local trips, there are so many other experiences out there through Google World and Google Lit. I mean, you can actually go on a trip through a book that's already built for you, and it hurt my heart that you had to do that over and over and over and didn't get to keep that thing that you built. And you have to keep recreating it because it's there for you. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't know there was a question.
Nope.
Okay.
I have a question,
Okay, go ahead.
or maybe a statement. There's just a realization that we need to always remember as well. And if the board decides to fund this, it would be a school account.
Yeah.
So therefore, the teachers, the information that they have in their teacher account would still need to be moved. So just that realization.
So, Ken, again, I,
Having trouble hearing everybody, just.
Sorry.
Sorry, make sure your mics are on.
so my understanding is the figures that we have here doesn't include the 54% aid, so theoretically, the first year would cost us, in hard dollars, $6,817.
Yes, that's correct. But we would have to, I guess, have the funding to pay the full amount in that first year.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Actually,
first couple next year.
Yeah, 7,410, because you gotta put the setup fee with the yearly fee.
I did.
So I got 14,000.
It's $14,820, and 54% of it's aidable, which is.
Oh, I just did 50%.
$8,002.80, which is, our share is approximately $6,000.
Yeah, sorry, I just did half, so.
Okay, I just talked about professional development. In addition, we have to think about our own technology department as well. So we would have to have additional training, professional development for our technicians as well. And, we have to also take into account that our technology staff will be supporting a second shared environment of collaborative daily usage amongst the teachers. So that means that anything that they currently support, the time will be taken from that to support it. So in order to provide the level of support that we would, that we strive for as a department, additional employees will be recommended as well. Additional employees. So I'm here today so I'm here today to support not only this group of teachers here that are advocating for. I'm here today not only to support this group of teachers advocating for Google, but I'm also here to support the entire faculty and staff of Iroquois. On this slide, you'll see 16 total programs up here that unfortunately were not available, that have been requested since the beginning of the school year in September, and were unfortunately not able to be purchased due to budgetary constraints. If you look at them, they span across all different grade levels, all different subjects, and different amount of teachers and students requesting them. If you look at yearly costs, depending on licensing, that works out to be approximately between $58,000 to $7,000 additional, for all of these,
Are all of these BOCES aidable?
some of them are, and some of them are not.
Are you saying
And-
we're asking for all of these?
These programs are requested, just like the books are requested.
I'm curious about Desmos, actually. Is that the curriculum that they have, that two teachers want to use, or 4 teachers?
It's just the website and the resources.
Oh, that's free.
But there is a paid version that they're requesting. So a lot of these, some of them have free versions, some of them have paid versions. With the paid versions, the program can get a lot more features.
That's not true of Desmos. It's just not.
So it's, okay, I mean, I can look back at the paperwork and the request forms from
I
the
mean,
teachers.
I get it, like, if they're buying the curriculum, yes. But if they just want to use that site, that.
Well, I think that's the portion that they're requesting, is that, the piece that comes with that additional card from the frequency for the sport teachers. Anything up there, we have a process where we go through team approvals. In fact, we do it because I'd love to be, any program that has to be requested, goes through that, and the teacher requests whether it's, the request is the free version, so that's to get approved, and, or whether it's a paid version. If they request a paid version, they actually put down, that it's requested.
I guess I questioned why this slide was in here too. I wasn't sure whether you were saying, gosh, there's only $58,000 more that people want technology, we should be looking at all of them. Or are we saying, we say no to programs, so, we should, I wasn't sure what this was saying. We said no to other things, we should say no to Google, and I think that's confusing. So if we were looking at it that way, I want to say, well, what if we say yes to? Do you know what I mean? But to me, this is separate. And when we're talking about whether we have to hire additional people, I would have a lot of questions about that too, like exactly what to do with Google, those people would have to do. But again, to me, that's separate. I still think that this licensing is what was being asked for tonight for teachers, that I would argue those teachers already know how to use it. So the purchase of this for the requests that we have does not need all that staff development, and many people they're proficient in it already if they want access to it. And if 75% of our teachers want access to it, it means that they already are using it. The fact that it's $6,800 to me, I mean, I think I've made it clear all along, nobody's going to be surprised. I was supportive of this in September. I'm embarrassed we're still talking about it in March. I congratulate the committee on doing all their due diligence to bring all this data to support the need. But I know, I feel the need, I live the need, I'm in that global board of education, and it has changed. I feel like in the last 2 years, we've said education is going to change because of COVID. And this is one of the things. What is possible with technology and the interconnectedness of people around the globe with technology to make doing our jobs, you know, working smarter, not harder, and all of that benefiting kids. I would argue we spent $6,500 of teacher time working around this already in the last year. So I kind of want to be careful about other programs, and I think it's all good information and it's wonderful for us to have. But the intent tonight when we started, which was very good, pointing out the learning target, was to get Google access for the teachers to access their Google Drive. And that, to me, seems an easy solution. But that's my opinion. I didn't mean to jump in on that before the end of the presentation.
No, that's okay. Just to clarify a couple of things, I don't think it's the slide is meant to say like no to the other programs or no to Google. As the director of technology for the entire district, I'm up here advocating for all, for the district. And, these are other programs that are along the same lines of being requested. With the survey, it wasn't 75% of the teachers of the district as a whole, it was 75% of the teachers that responded to the survey. That was only 68 total teachers. 90-something responded, sorry, but 68 were the ones going across Google. And, it was varying reasons why they wanted Google. Some, this will help them. Some, unfortunately, it won't help them in their happiness. Yes, I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to summarize everything tonight, I really, all of us appreciate your time, spending close to an hour. But this is just a fraction of the time that we have spent not only working around all of the roadblocks that we have been facing this year, but also preparing this presentation for you. We are really looking for your support in this, and please understand that every penny spent is only going to improve student experience at Iroquois High School and perhaps middle school and elementary school, and it is worth it. And I'm gonna ask you not to be the boss. This is what we get when we try to access the document that we're not allowed to. So please ask us any questions. We are speaking from experience, we're speaking from our heart, and we're here to clarify anything because we want you to make the best decision in the interest of students.
I do have a question, and it's because this is a money thing, but I also recognize that it's something that's very beneficial not only to you, but to our students. When you were utilizing your own personal Google accounts to log into, your Google Drive, you had no support, correct? It was you, that was all on you.
That's correct.
Okay. The way this was originally presented to the board was to give access to you all so that you could access your Google Drives. Is that correct?
Are you just talking about the four of us?
No,
So
I'm just trying to get an idea of how we can reduce the cost of this to a point that it's not going to overshadow other teachers' wants, technology-wise, in the district. And so, if we could forego option one and look strictly at option two with no technical support, because you had no technical support prior to that, then we would have a one-time fee of 46% of 54.25. Would that be a correct statement?
Yes, but, I would be very apprehensive to go with option two with zero technical support. So the technical support that Boces provides is completely separate than us pushing in classroom to help teachers. They're there for us to call for, issues with accounts, syncing, back-end networking.
When you say us, is us teachers or us?
Us, the technology
Oh,
department.
just to make sure we're.
Teachers are not contacting Boces. The technology department is contacting them for assistance with the servers that Boces sets up with us. So that part and, all the syncing that happens in the background, the fact that our Microsoft, Google, all of that support on the back end of things is what Boces provides. I've been talking with other districts, and, trying to configure how much hours we're actually going to use is difficult, because we have a Microsoft plan right now, we have a limited, we've never really had to track our hours for Microsoft.
Yeah, the other schools can that are currently utilizing Google, I'm sure they either had to go with the unlimited package or they're also purchasing. Is there any districts that we know out of there that's purchasing blocks all the time? Because I would imagine that they have to track.
In my workings with Boces, this was something specifically created for our district. No one had outside worked with the Boces technicians, and I said, this is how we're looking to utilize it. We already have Microsoft set up. Is there any price breaks or anything like that. They go back, talk to the manager, they had big meetings on their end that I was not involved in. They came back to me and said, this is what we can do for you. And that's those are the two options. So as I understand it, no, to answer your question, there's no other schools would be, because I don't think they were offered.
Does Boces have any idea how much technical support they're,
I mean,
going out? Obviously everyone else is paying a high yearly fee for the unlimited technical support. Does Boces have any idea?
They didn't give any information. I mean, honestly, everything's different. Every district's different, depending on.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Ken, did you say that you guys recommended the unlimited license for the first year?
Yeah,
And then you, in the technology department, you decided which technical support package you would like going forward.
yeah. I think that first year, there's always kinks, set up, okay, we're gonna set up, we think, yeah, we're accuracy. So then we work out the kinks and everything, we use BOCES, we work together, we have our senior technician that we bring in, 1 day a week, we work with the additional, techs there, and, and then Matt and I are being the ones that are working with them, we document those hours, and then we see, with the sole purpose of seeing if we can move to that next block the following year to save some money. Like if we say, hey, we only spent 30 hours, just buy 2 3-hour blocks, or 2 15-hour blocks, and then we should be set.
So it's possible just to purchase like 5 hours of technical support, so they can access 15 years of work, so they don't have to go through zip drives and rename all the folders.
Well, they would have access all year long.
Yeah.
It's not limited.
That's possible, but I don't wanna
They might have access to the school rather than.
Right.
Based off of the comment that Dr. Judith made, they're still not gonna have access to their personal drives, so they're gonna have to rebuild their professional. It
Speak
will
the same language?
it will just migrate over to your new account, and it relieves all this reading and everything.
Yeah, there's some logistical back-end things that we really have to figure out. It's gonna take involvement, so I know there were some comments that it's taking this long to do it. To set all this up, what we're talking about, working with building, BOCES, building these servers. If a teacher has a personal Google account that they've already created with Iroquois.csd.org, that's gonna clash with the one that we're going to now adopt. So we have to go through and visit each of those teachers individually and take over that account. This was really probably meant for a summertime implementation and a next year goal. That was always the goal in my head, to be quite honest, because of all the back-end work that has to happen to get this off the ground running.
Is it
We
possible
really-
for someone to set up a Google account with their Iroquois CSD?
Yes, we have several teachers.
How many?
I don't know, because we don't control them, I can't track it. So with the Gmail account, I can create a Gmail account that says, kenpiacenti@yahoo.com and make that my Gmail account. I can create a Gmail account that says kpiacenti@iroquoiscsd.org. I don't think, do any of you have Iroquois CSD?
No,
Yeah, okay. But you can do that, and I've worked with teachers that have it's just because Gmail allows it. Same thing with Microsoft. Microsoft allows it too. You can create a Microsoft account with your Gmail account.
Can I speak to something with Sharon said?
Yes.
This is for Sharon, is the only, that's where you come from?
She's very good.
She must have seen it, I heard. I just want to make sure that the technology department gets their just kudos, because I agree that a lot of us are proficient in using Google, we're not going to need a lot of support. But when I go to my tech guy and say, hey, I'm looking to use my old iPod to use a big camera in my classroom, can you show me how to do this? And, I know TAPE's not training, that's not part of how he takes, MO, but he spent some time with me to help me do that. So I don't doubt that this will present some obstacles for our technology department, and they've always been very willing to help, even if I'm coming to say, hey, can you help me with this, piece of fruit? So I think it will have some of that, so I just want to give respect to our technology department for, the work they've already done. If this has done nothing else, it's enlightening me in the process of that slide that, Ken just shared, which of course I don't want anybody to know about that, just give me my Google. But, the fact that my colleagues are asking for some of those programs, I've asked for those programs in the past, I think we definitely need a process in this district. Dare I say, a technology committee, that looking at those requests and using a rubric to assess those requests and say, okay, this is what we should go to the board with and ask for this. If I understand correctly, right now that power sits with you, Ken, and I think we need a larger body to make those decisions. And, I appreciate this group for all the time and energy you guys put in, because this is what we came here for Google. But I think it's time to let in the fact that we need a process for that whole process. That's about right.
And can I just, you know what, I'm not trying to take away from what technology does either. We could use, every district could use more technology people. But I guess in my mind, I'm hearing it as what the request is for the board. When a department needs, I'm big about staying in our lane, and when a department needs additional people because of additional staff or things, that's something that goes to Doug and Doug, goes to the administrators, goes to Doug, Doug makes the recommendation to the board for us to consider, for the board to look at that. We need this for all these reasons, and that may very well be in this case. This to me is something you're asking the board about. And the same thing with, I forgot what I was going to say. But the same thing with the, how many hours we need for technology. But this, purchasing this license, is something because of a board action that people came to the board about. And so I see it as two different parts of possibly our budget. I guess that's my thing.
Any other questions?
I have a question just for us, I guess. You're asking us to support this? Is that what you're asking? That's your ask.
Yes, our
Okay.
intention is to secure funding so that we can all be granted Google accounts through Iroquois High School, Iroquois Central School District.
So would the board be willing to talk about that?
And just out of curiosity, if we grant that funding, this still wouldn't actually happen until the following school year, is that correct?
That's correct. This would be, we have to get on Boces' schedule, it would be over summer. And then within it, that's what we'll be.
So I have a question actually surrounding this. So when that board policy was enacted last spring, 2011, what changed so drastically that BOCES has to get on board and possibly building new servers and things like that? I guess that's.
So my understanding of it is, it had gone to the component, is that correct? We needed to make the policy so that we were following.
I totally understand that, and that's why we need that additional security. That's what it was explained to us. So, but I guess that's the first thing I'm hearing, first time I'm hearing this is, having to build additional servers and get BOCES on board. But it was my understanding that it was just blocked, Google was just blocked.
Well, yeah, so, it's gonna be like virtual servers. But when you build a Google domain for a school district and entity, it's completely different than just going to the website and signing up for the
Excuse me, you're gonna step out somebody's telephone.
Yeah, you're gonna watch that phone.
Sorry about that. So in that background, just like our Microsoft domain, a Google domain is exactly like our Microsoft domain. So we have, not to bore you so much with the technical details, but we have something called an Active Directory that has all your user accounts in it, that's synced to your Outlook, that's synced to the fact that you can actually log into your computer. All that stuff works on in the background and goes to a server location and pulls all that data that is associated with you and your account. All that now needs to be set up for Google. And then we purchased a Google domain, iroquoiscsd.org, in addition, and tie that to our Microsoft one. And that enables it so that there's communication between the two, so when you have to do a password reset today, you don't actually have to do password resets on both, but there is ways that we can tie it in, all that stuff's happening in the background on the server. And that's what has to be built.
Okay, I have another question, because I'm hearing this and I was confused by that too. It seems like, from a Google perspective, right, you're locked. It seems like, when I transfer things from my personal to my school, I just share it with that address and there it is, and I just open it. So it wasn't a laborious process, it was very fast, it wasn't
So,
in any way slow. But my other question, I do want to hear yours, but my other question is this, and this is very much oversimplifying, but sometimes, if this could be for next year, we have this technology, people. I'm thinking, if we can't do something now, it's March. They've got from March till June, where they're going to be doing the same massive amounts of extra work. Is there some workaround for that? Is there an unlock button for them as a pilot? Is there some, they're trying it out to make it easier for next year. Is there some possible workaround for that?
So, I can talk to Boces about a workaround. I don't think so, because in order for it to all work, for them to get to the point where they log in with their account, that backend has to be set up first. So I can talk to them, but the workaround would, the on switch would be allowing them to their personal accounts and enforcement use cases. So about your first question, sorry, I forgot. Oh yeah, moderating drives, thank you. So you mentioned about just simply sharing a link. To be honest, they can do that right now. I work with some of the teachers up here on that and several other teachers. If they just click on the link to their OneDrive and share it to themselves through an email, they can access their personal OneDrive. They can do that, but like they talked about, time comes into place, and I think it's about that, and it's about accessing those resources through social media and stuff like that. But they can do that simple share of the link, send it to themselves, and then they just change the permissions on it and say anyone can access it. Anyone can access, and then they can access it on their school computer.
But that brings us back to the butterfly.
So, Sharon, if I could just add, Julie mentioned the New Visions curriculum, and that's where it's a little bit different. 95% of the New Visions curriculum is accessible right now. It's the secured assessments that require the special sign-in. Everything else is open to us, but it's the assessment piece which is necessary to successfully do the New Visions work.
In addition to the live trainings that we
Correct.
engage in,
Correct.
that's, when we hit the roadblock too.
Yeah.
To security point, when you share a Google Doc and it's accessible to anyone with the link, it's not as secure as if you're limiting it to the people with the domain name that so it would be better for us to have that through the Iroquois CSD website. You know what I mean? Especially internally, like if they're.
Well, I think that stems back to the fact that they want to live in the Microsoft platform. When they take that Google account, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to transfer it to work. That's what they're going to do, and then share it to people. So, and to your point about the security, if I send that link, it kind of goes back to posting publicly on websites. Post publicly, do you want anyone to access it? Do you need someone to access it with a Google? Anything you post on our website, it's open, so anyone can access it. We shouldn't require parents or community members to sign up for office if they don't want to. But if we email someone a direct link, then they go click on it and open. We're only emailing that. But to I guess your question, they're looking to use this Google platform to access those documents and then convert it back to Word to use with the students and other faculty members.
Yes, yes, and also collaborate with other people who are using other professionals outside of, like, there are free curriculum available that are excellent. Not, and they're professionals, they know what they're looking for, they know what is good that works in a classroom and what is engaging and all of that. And many times it's delivered through Google Doc or Sheets, or it's usually a Google Doc. As like, Mrs. Hardy said about first year teachers, like pre-service teachers, which I was just one, which is bizarre, but so as a first year teacher, it's incredibly valuable. Like I get to collaborate with teachers from other districts, and they have been super supportive. And I do it through Google Docs, and it's time saving, it's supportive. It helps me just even be a part of the teaching community.
And we have several teachers doing that through Microsoft Word with other districts. I collaborate almost daily with other technicians on, and other people through Teams, through Microsoft Word. And I think their roadblocks are that they're hitting this exactly what you're saying, that they're getting to these professional communities.
They don't have both.
Right, and they're having.
Have both. Yes.
If this were free, there would be absolutely no discussion. We would absolutely be like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And I just want to say that this has nothing to do with anything other than it sounds like money. I appreciate having this slide that Sharon was talking about, because it does let you know that these are not the only teachers that have tech things that they'd like to see. And it kind of gives me a vision of maybe we need to look, when we do our summer plan, look at what some of the tech, technology requests are. Because I wasn't aware that we had this many people who wanted these many things. To me, Google does make sense. I, as a college professor, am using both platforms. And I use both platforms with students. I can tell you, there are a lot of students out there that have never touched Google. This is not, I keep hearing things about how, everybody uses Google. That's not true. There are a lot of kids that come from other parts of the state that have never seen Google. That doesn't mean that what you're asking for isn't absolutely valid, and that there aren't really great resources available to you. It comes down to the money, and I think it's time for the board to start talking about where are we willing to put our money.
Do we have an idea of what the current technology budget is and where we are with it?
Component of the budget that's Boces is obviously large. But when you take that just down to technology, our budget is probably the $300,000 range for technology through Boces.
So what would this come through?
And this would be part of that allocation that we do for next year. But in that number of 306,000 is not really big. So, and I do, when I build the budget I'm present 3 weeks from today, there is some wiggle because we do, things come and go throughout the school year. So we do plan a little on the higher side because things are coming and going a lot. So I would say this was the falls in that range of planning for this kind of change.
I do want to say that John and I kind of budget a lot. One of the things I do in working here as well, every year we evaluate our programs, usage, what people are still using, what they want, and we get all the reports out of that, and we talk to the teachers and have discussions. last year we were able to cut down on some of our programs. They just weren't being used anymore. The relevancy just wasn't there. And because of that, we got some brand spanking new programs that are awesome and are being used by a lot of teachers in the district. So we do that. We do that process here in our public talks to make sure that we gather those programs.
And so everyone understands that if we are considering possibly eliminating a program because maybe 2 or 3 teachers are using it and very sporadically, we go and talk to them.
Yeah, we do.
To make sure that they know and why we're doing it and so they're well aware, you know, our plans.
It really is a massive undertaking, especially now with the incredible change that happened with the pandemic. It just shoved technology forward. Maybe people consider it forward, maybe not. Sideways.
Depends on which butterfly.
Very fast. Right, it is a butterfly, right? So thank you for staying on top of that and making sure that technology is still relevant because it's becoming less relevant faster, probably because of the move to online that was shoved down everybody's throats, whether we want it or not. Thank you for doing that.
It's really important, the statement made by the board, thank you, about needing to stay to one platform with students because I'm playing it out years from now and I'm concerned that if we start using 2 platforms, we're gonna enter into a huge communication issue. Because if you have twins in the same grade level and one teacher uses Google and the other one uses Microsoft, communication is going to get very, very confusing.
Well, my understanding is that we're not gonna, Google would be a
That's what I'm
school
saying.
platform. I mean, the way I'm doing it right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but going forward, that the access for Google would be for our teachers only, for your use to gather information to be used in the classroom for our children, not to open it up to everybody else. Those individual teachers who wish to garner information through Google will have the ability to do that. In my eyes, that's where we're limiting Google to, unless there's something else that I haven't heard.
Just a quick, I would say 90% correct. Yes, not just the faculty and staff, but the faculty and staff as a whole. Not just the 4 teachers that monitor.
No, I understand
Okay.
that, I understand that, but
yes.
no intention for Google to become overriding. I mean, to me, this is a resource tool. That's what you'll be utilizing it for. Not for communications, not for everything else that we use, our OneNote and whatnot.
Right.
Google is for you to gather your information worldwide to bring it to the classroom.
And
Period.
our intent is to secure that license so that we can utilize that.
Right, no,
So we will communicate perhaps with, teachers from different parts of the world. It will not be used as a communication tool between teacher and student.
Or education.
I think it's important to keep monitoring those things, and I love this idea of having maybe a technology committee working with the district, because those requests could change, we're talking about, we can do this and this and this. We need to listen to what our faculty has asked before, and you're right, they're asking for teacher access. But those things are so rapidly changing that these things are going to change year after year, and who knows where everything is going.
None of us can predict the future, but so we can speak to the here and the now. And that is, again, I've said it 15 times now, we are here looking for your support, and it is a financial investment.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear, because I'm hearing things about opening it up to students, and then we are using 2 platforms.
No, we're not.
As we have it right now, we have it under resource.
That's it's partly my lack of clarity, I think. I'm not talking about, the Gmail will not even be allowed to be accessed, right? You won't have an Iroquois.csd Gmail, like, you can limit that.
Right, they'll have, and they will,
It will be
Google
assigned
account,
in.
yeah, it'll be assigned a
Yes.
Google account, they won't have access to a Gmail. I think when Mary Jo, correct me if I'm wrong, when we talk about communication, we're talking about communication, we're not talking about email back and forth, we're talking about, like,
Do I use Google?
do we use Google, do we use Microsoft in the classroom? You know, that communication piece with the parent, that, okay, I'm a teacher, I'm a parent, I have a fifth grade, student who's using Microsoft, and I have a seventh grade student that's using Google. That's where communication can sometimes come to a head, or if I'm a student, it could be rough on the student if I jump from my period 1 class to my period 2 class, and I'm on 2 different classes. So that's where I think.
And that's why I was just thanking the teachers.
Yeah.
To say, that's not what we're looking for.
Correct. Yeah, I totally understand that, that is not what they're looking
Right, yeah, but it's been brought up several times here, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, because
But
that's my understanding, but it looks like we're looking for something further.
for. I think what's great about this licensing package, like if you look at some of the other requests, I know some of these other, it's like asking for two people wanted, or 4 licenses, or whatever, and when you expand that, it becomes more and more expensive every time you add people, right? Google doesn't do that. So if things do change, we're in a good position. If they don't change, we're in a good position. It doesn't change the total amount, so I think it makes it more flexible.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want to get in a situation where all of a sudden we're morphing into dual platforms and, that's.
We're still going to be in Microsoft School. So back to the question. About the money. Are we,
So you say,
do we have
What's that?
No, informal action with John developing the budget and presenting it next month, he needs to know if he's going to be putting additional funds or having to shift or has to cover whatever he does in the business office, and you do a lot, so that this is taken care of.
informally, what would you want to see?
All the government have access to do the web. There's no
Yeah,
reason
we can put it in the budget, I do.
Let's just do this, is there anybody that doesn't want that?
No.
That's what I thought. So, I think the board is directing you, John, to find a way to put that into the budget. Build it into the budget.
Thank you very much.
And thank you guys for coming in, presenting, taking your time, even the conversation you guys had with me as a group or individually, so appreciate it all, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, just for clarification, when we say build it into the budget, what numbers we want to go with what Ken is recommending with the first year, the more expensive option, and then.
I would say, that,
option two.
I mean, I hired him to take care of technology, so I would tend to favor the recommendation of.
Okay, I just want to clarify. So when you're going to crunch the numbers, you know which numbers you're supposed to be using. Okay.
And then if there's a problem, we can come back and revisit it with Ken and say, hey, we'd really like to cut.
Are we building in like the additional PD and everything else that was associated with costs?
I think
He's kind of a fixed number.
that becomes a conversation that I think that you guys have to have at this point, what,
Yeah, I mean,
those numbers are.
I want to know what the actual cost is going to be. When you guys figure out how much additional support we're going to have and things like that, does that fit into the budget? Can we do that?
So you got everything you need to present next time, John?
I can.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry. We just spent an hour and a half of their salary is your salary, like, we just spent $6,000 in an hour and a half. Like, can we just say that we're moving forward with this? And if there is another person, well, no, because you're just asking like, what about PD and what about a new person for technology? We don't even know if we need that.
Right, and that's why
I don't want to get
John
an
and Ken will work on that and John and Ken will work on that and present that to us hopefully at our next budget workshop.
And how it fits.
And this is how we're making it work.
I think Chuck was just asking for.
I just want to make sure that we've got all the pieces clarified here. I don't want any surprises down the road. I don't want Ken to come down, next year in the middle of the year and say, hey, we've got a huge issue. We're going to need this many more people. I'm not anticipating anything like this. I think this is a pretty light lift, to be honest. But again, as a board member, I'm going to do my due diligence. And it comes down to, we've got X number of dollars in the budget, how are we going to get it spent? And in my eyes, you gotta always keep those students first. How is this going to impact the students?
Right.
To me, this is going to impact the students in a positive way.
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at it. If we can make it work, that's great. And I feel confident that between Ken and John, they're going to be able to make it work.
Thank you again. Thank you for your time tonight.
Moving on, now we have number 7, board discussion and news worth sharing. The first thing is board docs. We are moving to board docs starting with our next meeting. And so we are looking for the board to come in on April 6th before our meeting at 6 p.m. to do some training, because there are some ins and outs learning how to log in and find our materials and whatnot, and to actually get your login and passwords and stuff. So we do need to have some training. Is everybody available to use this on April 6th for our meeting for now?
And the board docs will be trained virtual.
From what I understand, it can, it won't be as effective, virtual, but
It's a regular board meeting, but we're going to meet an hour earlier just to do the training, so if you can come, we'll be there. If you can't, we'll figure it out.
You can't hear what's being said, so I'm not answering, just so you know why.
We're talking about training for board docs, an hour before our next board meeting. So that we can learn how to log into it and whatnot. 'Cause this is our last agenda that's not going to be board docs. We're moving to board docs in April.
I will have to figure that out with the district. How I'm gonna do that, but I won't be able to do that.
Then the next item is facilities naming committee update. The meeting was canceled, so they don't have anything to report this at this meeting, so hopefully we'll hear from you guys in April.
Should we, all the reasons and heroes and stations, a date for, so we can get some. Date?
Yeah, since Louise isn't here and she's on that committee, why don't you guys email each other and get that straightened out?
Yeah, we send our email out with it.
Okay. The next item is the Boces annual meeting.
Oh, she's here.
Oh, she's here. Oh, there we go. Hello, Louise. What do you guys? We'll stick with the email. Okay. So the next item is the Boces annual meeting. It's virtual on April 7th via Zoom. Is anyone willing to participate? What day is that? That's a Thursday.
it's a day of the board meeting.
It's a Thursday. I can do that.
What time is it?
So,
7 p.m.? I mean, I can do.
JSC state meeting is a dog at the time of the dog.
Oh, it is? Well, I can't do it, sorry.
Oh.
Okay.
And I know you're going to do both
Boces really appreciates it when members of Boces does attend, so thank you to the board for having so much time.
Yeah, if you've never attended one in person, I would suggest that you have the opportunity to do it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, this was really.
If you want to attend? Okay, let Laura know. Okay, and then one thing that's not on here, the Erie County Association of School Boards is going to have their Getting to Know Boces program. It's been moved, but it's now going to be on April 28th, and it's down in Springville. We're going to go see the P-TECH program. So if anybody's interested in getting to know the Boces program, P-TECH, that is going to be on April 28th. Anybody else have anything they want to announce or
Well,
discuss?
just on that, from the reports that we get from our municipal area one director, who lives in Springville, the facility for P-TECH is just unbelievable.
I'm pretty sure it's a new build.
It is.
And I personally think the P-TECH program is a great program for individuals, and not a shameless plug for them. It really, for a student who talk about hands-on, you heard the 3 students talk about it earlier, they go down in there and they take these programs and they develop, and then they actually come out with college credits. Don't quote me on the degree, but they get very significantly into it, and that really helps them up to jobs and the future. I think it's an associate's, yeah, that's what I was thinking. And, you know, and I know constantly we're talking to students to see if anyone's interested, and we have some students there. So it's a program that Iroquois students go to that you'll be seeing.
Anything else? Okay then.
Just that basketball game was really about for yesterday.
Yeah, it's definitely is worth sharing.
I just wanted to call out about the basketball game to Julie Loskoff from the SGB, ITAG in the class of 2022. The red team won, in case anyone was wondering, but to see the kids in the gym and the adults with no masks, and everyone was running around like crazy, having a great time. So very normal.
See all the signs for the teachers.
Yeah, the teachers and the kids are coming out to remember the teachers. It was pretty amazing. So thank you for everyone having that week happen. So the other thing, just if anyone's interested, Selma Primary School is having a book fair on March 24th.
I'm in the meeting now, can you hear me?
We can, thanks Louise. Okay, then if there's nothing else, we'll move on to our superintendent report.
All right, thank you. One thing I have to add here is I did receive an email on Monday, so it was after everything was posted, about the Assembly and the New York State Assembly and Senate, that each one of them passed their respective bills for the budget, which one thing is John has been waiting for. That's why we talk about next month. I don't think we could have all the documents ready between now or between Monday and now. But some highlights are school aid for the foundation aid that maintains the executive budget for school aid in it. The Senate also did include a $1.2 million for foundation aid study, which is something we constantly talking about, using appropriate data, updating that formula, and then looking at the foundation aid for schools. The capital outlay limit, and I hate that name of it, really what this is every year in the budget, and we do it every year, is $100,000 can be spent and get paid back the next year to keep improving the districts. Obviously, over the years, it hasn't changed, I don't know since how long, and the Senate did increase it to $250,000 with a max of $500,000, and the Assembly raised it to $250,000. So therefore, they're not quite on the same page, but because they're both very similar, I can see that being presented back to the governor. Universal pre-K, the Senate approved $250 million for grants to be phased in over 2 years, and the Assembly proposed $150 million So again, there's more money that's looking to be put towards universal pre-K. I know it's very successful this year, so that would be great if we can have some more of that. Career and tech education funding, and what this is for Boces. There's a lot of services that we get from them. And the Senate said there's an aidable increase limit. And what that means is right now, if you work for the Boces service and adhere to Boces, and we use that service, $30,000 of your salary is aidable. It's been that way again forever. And so the Senate is looking to increase that limit for CTE teachers, career and tech teachers, only to 60,000, whereas the Assembly is increasing that limit to 60,000 for all Boces staff. And there's a significant amount of staff behind the scenes other than CTE. So the Assembly is actually the one I like. Recover from COVID school programs, and the Assembly modifies the executive proposal over a 2-year, $100 million recovery from COVID schools program to fund additional mental health and academic health for students. And the Senate omits this omits the funding from this program. So there's a significant difference between the two groups. Student mental health services, Assembly proposed the $40 million for the student mental health. And it doesn't say anything about what the Senate did in here. So I don't know if they're on the same page or not, but I personally, mental health, academic health, those are great areas to be funding right now. One thing that's always been a buzz for a long time is the electric school buses. In the governor's budget, the proposal will require districts to purchase only zero-emission school buses starting in 2027. The Senate delays that requirement until 2029, and the Assembly is empowering the Commissioner of Education to delay the budget till 2027. Empowering the Commissioner to delay the executive's date of 2027 if it would cause a financial hardship on it, but it doesn't say how long. I think it doesn't say how long they would let the Commissioner of Education go. So they're both talking about pushing it off a little bit, but no definition there.
Hey, Doug.
Yes.
Just a question with the electric buses, regardless of, what they end up with a time period. Is that a wholesale flip, or is that a phase-in period?
Phase-in period from the governor, because use only zero-emission buses by the year 2035. So you'd have to start by 27 and be completed by 35. And with that, it's not just purchasing the buses, it's the infrastructure, they have the charging facilities for them. And then looking at, they're going on longer trips, field trips, that there's charging facilities appropriately placed and timing so that they could be charged up when they go there and come back. So I know with some events, if you're going, I'll say down to Jamestown, how much electricity would you use going down there, and while the sport is going on, would there be enough time there to charge up so they can make it back?
Another question seeing is that this appears that it will be another mandate for school districts. Are they going to provide any funding to accomplish this task? It's going to cost far more for electric vehicles than it will for, our fossil fuel vehicles. And then we have the infrastructure as well to build.
This being a briefing of it, I don't see it in here. The only thing I see from the governors is the cost will be made reimbursable by transportation aid, so that's not additional funding, it's the same funding we have for our regular buses. And there was a longer answer, so I really don't want to read through those, all this time. I do know that at the federal level, we're talking about this too, and from what I heard is it's a semi-funded mandate where they want to help with that differencing in the cost. So there's a lot of hope there from what I'm understanding for this. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out with the dates and everything.
Yeah, my concern is because, making a wholesale change on our lead and basing it in, over 8 years, if typically we've been doing about 3 buses, I think, a year, or 3, 4. Yeah. So at best, we're looking at, 32 buses over 4 years.
Well, that's where we definitely have to, we have to look at the number of fleet we have, and if you were to say we're going to start in 2027 and finish by 35, which is 8 years, and you divide the number of buses by 8. So if you start early, but we have to make sure we have the charging stations ahead of time. So that is one thing that we'll have to do, and I know we have the official building condition survey coming up, because that's where we are in the timeline for it. And so I was talking to the architect about that today, and I said, be sure to take, different changes, but also we just did one 2019, where we looked and we moved things to different years. Be sure to go back, reference that, so I reminded him of that, so we'll see how that all works.
I have a question about that. And do our transportation mechanics have the capabilities for servicing electric buses? So now we have to do more training and whatnot as well, or hire new people who know how to handle an electric bus. And also, I remember having a conversation where we were discussing between regular gasoline and diesel buses, and we went back to diesel buses because they were better in the snow and the hills of our district and whatnot. What's an electric bus going to be like?
Well, that's one of the big questions.
In our districts, I have some concerns about this. I get that, having zero emission vehicles is the wave of the future, but I don't know that that's necessarily the solution for every vehicle on the road. And I'm wondering if school buses are, should be targeted like this.
And can our grid and infrastructure handle 45 buses charging at the same time at 4 o'clock when everybody's going to put in air conditioning systems and all this stuff there?
Along with this, and Jake's take on it, are municipalities being mandated to put their trucks over to?
I don't remember the answer from months ago when it was being talked about, so I just.
I'm just wondering where the evidence is, is it because school districts are easy to pick on?
I don't.
But, and then what happens with, how long do the batteries last, and what do we do with the batteries, and how much is it gonna cost the district to get rid of the batteries? Are the batteries are the buses gonna outlive the battery? There's a lot of stuff in this that I don't think was thought through. How do you recycle
that? And I think, and I think there's a lot of different people, because I was actually on, I don't know if I have it in here, but thank you to Senator Galvin and David DiPietro, because we were on different meetings with them, with all the superintendents, and we did express similar concerns, what you're saying now. Another one was, one superintendent expressed a concern if they're receiving their power from a coal-generated plant, what's the efficiency with all of that? But I'm glad they're coming out now with these questions, because that's what can be looked into. Because spending a little, as Michelle says, spending a little longer on the planet, I think is great. I think that's the goal, and what's the best way to do that? Moving on to.
Not for us, but
For everyone, for our generations. Let's see. Thank you to the Senate and the Senator for that discussion, for listening to the concerns of Iroquois, so appreciate that greatly. The next thing is the COVID update. So the COVID update, let's see, in the last 2 weeks, there were only 4 cases. I did discuss with my students at Cabinet just yesterday how they were feeling, coming back with the different changes, and they all felt pretty good. I did ask about masking, because I know some students are still wearing masking, even at the Cabinet, a couple had them on, because I'm concerned, is anyone saying anything to them? Are they supporting people's choice? And they said they really seemed, from their perspective, it was. They said they did get a couple of questions of someone asking, why are you wearing a mask? But it was more of a questioning, not a belittling way in which it was asked, so I was glad to see that. Still things that we're doing, we still have daily reporting to the state that goes on. We have a weekly testing of the unvaccinated staff, tracing the close contacts of exposure, contacting all the families of the people that were contacted, so that is all still happening. As everyone, I hope, heard in my Monday message, the last 2 Monday messages, that we were switching because of low numbers from a daily reporting the number of COVID cases to a weekly one. But that's why I think it's very important to stress that if someone is exposed, they will receive a phone call when we know immediately, and let know about that. The future, where are we going with how we're dealing with COVID and what's left over with it? So by June, we're really looking at full attendance at the graduation, the different field days and things that are happening in June. And the field trips, they're starting to find those with buildings, and reaching out to the PTOs and forward with different field trips. It's kind of interesting how some of the organizations have changed, and not to pick on during Lake to bring them up, they changed how they're doing the food purchase there. And so that is a significant impact of trying to figure that logistics out for that trip. Because Ross, I know, has talked about it 2 or 3 times about trying to figure that out, and we're trying to brainstorm, so I know he's working on that. So that's for the end of the year activities. Currently, what we're still doing is we're still trying to be smart. So someone mentioned, I think you mentioned about Alma having the book sale. And so if they're the book sales, rather than just saying, hey, our doors are open, everyone's walking in, they're just setting up times for the different grade levels to come in, because it will still work efficiently that way. It's easier, but you don't have everyone in all at once. So that's it for COVID. Does anyone have any questions about anything of that? The next thing is the capital project. The capital project starting back up, you can see work across the street in the athletic field. And for the internal work, that's already, some of it's already started. So for the emergency systems, there will be a pull lever in case there's an emergency, a student can pull it, for the lockout and making the building secure. That is already, they've already started wiring, or sorry, not wiring, pulling the conduit there, which then the wires will go through that later. So we're moving forward on that. And in June, we will be starting to work on the science rooms along with other things within the building. So that's all starting back up. And there will be pictures on our website of the different things. And across the street, we will have that time-lapse video too of that's being built. It's just so much more massive than other places. The next thing is curriculum and instructional update. So I will look to Dr. Dudick for that.
Tonight I want to talk to you about the World Languages Department, and it aligns with our strategic plan for student experience 2.1, and it also hits upon ESSA. There are 2 main things I wanted to discuss with you. Earlier this week, Doug and I attended the World Languages Honor Society induction for both the French and Spanish students. And it was really a lovely ceremony, very formal. It was nice to see our students dressed up and without masks and enjoying every bit of it. So we had a total of 29 French students and 28 Spanish students being inducted. And I just want to commend the World Languages Department. They are constantly seeking ways to expand our student experience. The second one is really exciting as well, because this year marks the 6th year that students are obtaining the seal of biliteracy, and they're working towards it. And recently I received a report, a state report, that went through the history of the seal of biliteracy. And they divided us up by regions. And what I found really quite exciting was that our school district is one of 5 area school districts that have participated since 2016, 2017. So we are really, and just to remind everyone, we started with 2 students. We are now up to 43 students with French, Spanish, Mandarin, and Ukrainian. So the hard work of our department chair, John Gatsby, and Mr. Curry has just allowed our students to blossom. And this, as I mentioned before, expands our exposure with our ESSA scores and helps us with state reporting and national reporting. So kudos to them, and it's really becoming for us, a blueprint that we hope to use when we move to the seal of civic readiness in the social studies department. So, very exciting, and every department is awesome, but they have really been working very hard.
And I really did enjoy going there, and it was, you have the numbers, so many for Spanish and so many for French were inducted.
Yeah, 29 and 28.
29 and 28, so that's awesome. The next thing is about social media, and that's that committee that I've been meeting with. And so we did have our second meeting, and there was a big pause in there in February where I did want to do them earlier, but just the way the schedule went, I couldn't get to it. But we did have another meeting, and it was I thought, a very productive meeting. From what I heard, the feedback, they thought it was productive too. We talked really about procedures of safety when events happen, with the notification about a shelter-in-place lockdown, and we will be having a demonstration for that emergency system that we're installing. I talked about the wiring going in. There will be a demonstration beginning of April that they will all be invited to, because that's a lot of what we were talking about, of how that would be utilized, and so they're really going to be on the ground for. Administration will be going to that, and they'll be invited in to see it too, so we can get feedback from their perspective. Recycling, why that's on here is we had some students come in and talk about that, and we were finally able to get them in. John and I met with them. It was a great hour-long meeting, I'm guessing. I didn't time it. And it was nice because we were able to start off because we did switch our waste management system, which did have a greater capacity. So that was great to be able to tell them right away. After they came up with a lot of different ideas where they wanted to focus on, where they wanted to look at it. John did meet with one of the representatives the next day to tour the building, to go through it, to talk to Mr. Genestri about it. So there will be additional meetings with them to keep moving things forward. And I really appreciate them coming forward. So thank you to them if they're watching tonight. And any questions on that? And recognitions. So the Master Teacher Program, I was unable to attend, but Dr. Judith went, and Samantha Evans and Sandra Ferber were inducted last night. So congratulations to them. And let's see, you talked about the basketball, the staff basketball league, and you talked about the foreign language. So the other piece, Mr. Essinger put out with the capital project, they have to move science rooms because they're renovating them. And he just wanted a special thank you because they're needed by June 1st. It's a big undertaking to move the classrooms. And Mr. Stark and both of our day and night maintenance crews have done an amazing job coordinating and making all those moves happen. So a big thank you to them. And I know this came from the middle school, but I think the same thank you goes to the people in the high school, because those rooms have to go through the same emptying and moving and everything. And you say emptying, that's nice, but remember, they got to put it all back. So you're kind of repeating your work. So we move on to there was the New York State Wrestling Championship, and Ryan had an outstanding showing, and Trevor came in 5th. So congratulations to your family. The March 5th and 6th was the Indoor Track and Field State Championship, and Kendall earned runner-up in New York State in 55-meter hurdles. Ariana earned 3rd place in the distance medley relay. Katrina earned 7th in the race walk, and Evan ran his personal best time and finished in the top 25 in the state. What I really love about all these is that ties in perfectly to my next one, because they really enjoy going there, all the different groups. But this is from the indoor track, but they actually recognize the additional work of the bus drivers and the staff over there, what they had to do, and they sent cards to the office over there and to the 9 drivers that went with personalized thank yous. It was from all athletes for the indoor track and field. We want to thank you for picking us and taking our teams to the meets and safety on time this whole winter. You drove over freezing cold mornings and sometimes in harsh conditions. We appreciate everything you do and wanted to say thank you. So that was great for them to have that piece of it. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you.
you so much. That brings us to recognition of guests. Do we have anybody who would like to be recognized? Okay, and that brings us to discussion on agenda items 11.2 through 11.5.14. We do have 4 teachers, 1 social worker, and 1 aide that are going to be retiring based on our agenda. And I just want to say a big shout out to those people. Thank you for all of your energy, your time, and your service to our school district.
And we usually invite them in for our June meeting. It was the last one they're here, so I think that would be great. And I'd also like to suggest to the board that we could reach out to the people that retired over the last 2 years that we haven't done it. So I'll let Nora write that down, get the invitations out and everything. So thank you for having them come in. It's really nice. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Okay. Then 11.1, is there a request to withdraw any specific items from the agenda? B, is there a request to add any specific items to the agenda? Great. C, I'm looking for a request to approve the consensus agenda items 11.2 through 11.5.14.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
The only thing I'd like to say that I just remembered was in there, we have all of the individuals, all the inspectors that come in to help with the vote, and they volunteer that time. So a huge thank you to all of them for their time that they give to the district. So thank you.
That brings us to 12, recognition of guests. None. We do not need an executive session. So I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. We're going home now. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you.